Making a running commercial based around time sounds like an easy task. But how can you make it original and not come off as a redone concept?
Just get to the bell. 12:05 at the bell. You're here. Capitalize. Move up. Now we're racing. Close hard. Need everything. One more gear.
This commercial revolves around a friend of ours, Ben Flanagan. He's an elite athlete, and we wanted to create a commercial that was highlighting a product as well as driving the narrative of what it feels like to run a race and this whole concept of time. As Ben was training for a 5-kilometer race and On Running was releasing a new racing shoe, this was the perfect opportunity to create something cool. From the beginning, the director wanted to create a piece around time and what it feels like to race. We wanted to be in the mind of the athlete and feeling struggles, triumphs, and hurdles one has to conquer during a 5-kilometer race.
Cool. So this was sold like a couple days ago, and like we have to shoot this next week or so. The idea is that like we're shooting 12.5 laps. It's supposed to be condensed, and like the game is like, how do we kind of make this fast and high energy, but also make it time based, right? So like I sold this as something that everything is based around this 13.05 second race time. The idea is that like we want to play up on points and times in that, and then use that as a progression. The idea is that we're actually in Ben's mind for this. I wanted to kind of give the dialogue of what a pro athlete would be thinking about in a race that is kind of a big lead up race potentially to the Olympics.
Just based off what you said, we should definitely hop on a call with Ben to see what actually, like his input on that aspect. And then as you envision this being a 60-second spot, as well as this whole time aspect in Ben's mind, like, do you want to stick to one locations, multiple locations? Like, what do you envision if for this in generally?
Ideally, we keep this into one location, which is the track. That's going to be the main story device.
Yeah.
But we might actually do some like off story stuff. So like in a studio or whatever, might use that as a place we can control light and just make it a little bit more interesting. Like,
although we had big visions for this project, unfortunately, we didn't have the budget or resources to match. We pulled a lot of favors and used our own inventory as well as investments to make something that we were all happy with. Based off the needs and wants of the director, this is now my job as a DOP as well as a creative collaborator to start sourcing what we needed. In terms of camera, we wanted to test out an anamorphic look as well as focus on textures. We would be running on a track, so I knew that we needed a nimble gimbal setup that could take the weight of an anamorphic lens as well as the camera that we were using. The textures and studio scenes that we were going to shoot needed to be really tight so we can enhance the concept of time. In that case, I knew that we needed a set of diopters for the lenses that we were using. Generally, anamorphic lenses have a large minimum focus distance, and you need a set of diopters so you can bring lenses closer to your subject. As we had loved to have shot this project on an RA or even a bigger camera package, I knew that this would cause a lot more problems for us and it would be too expensive. The camera that we choose to shoot this on was the Red Komodo as our A cam and the Sony FX3 for the slow shutter and our B cam. The lenses that we shot this on were the PNS rehoused Kawa anamorphics. I was the first AC on a dock and they used the same lens combo and I loved the look. Speaking of budget and experience with the commercials that we have been making, we knew our money would be well spent on props, location, and set design. In addition to sourcing all the gear and props at this time, we also looped in a producer who would be finding locations and anything else that we needed. With our idea finalized and a location in the talks of being locked, it was time to brief our main talent on what our idea was and get any additional feedback from his side.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like an internal monologue. Like I think the stuff that you guys have on there is like a pretty good a baseline, honestly. A lot of, I would say like the best way to probably characterize it is like an internal debate, like trying to combat any sort of pain and suffering or self-doubt with like self-affirmation or positive self-talk. Like it's really just about like, okay, this is a difficult experience right now, but how can I reframe it to stay motivated, carry momentum? And, you know, I kind of think of the race a little bit more of like a crescendo too, right? Like it's like the further that you get in, that's where the emotional component gets deeper, greater magnitude. And then it all kind of reaches the pinnacle, which is like, you know, whatever the last 2 laps.
With everybody on board, it was time to move quickly with this overarching time crunch that we had in terms of executing this project. This production was scheduled in 2 days. The first being a studio day where we would be shooting the set build as well as all the tight shots that we needed, in addition to an audio recording session in a separate studio. The second was on location at a track during night. We were calling on a lot of favors for this job, and everybody was on board, but we wanted to still be respectful of their time. We had Abby, our production designer, load in a set that we had custom built for another commercial and reused it for this one. Unfortunately, the set build was never used in the other commercial that it was intended for, but we wanted to showcase how much work was put into it by using it in this project. We wanted to build a world where we are in Ben's mind and him focusing on the aspect of time and this race. This can be visualized through the track as well as the hanging stopwatch. We shot some extra scenes with the shoe hanging in the middle, as this was intended to having a product highlight, and we could still sell it for a campaign later. Anytime you can do it, I recommend doing spec work, but don't always look at it as a creative outlet. You have to look at it in terms of a business perspective or an investment in your time so that you could resell later. And this is exactly what we're doing by shooting this extra content. Think about selling this project years down the line as a full rollout and not necessarily one piece. After the talent was wrapped, we focused on getting the tight inserts we needed as well as textures. We sourced a bunch of different clocks and watches off of Amazon and shot a variety of angles of each in addition to shooting the main product, which was the shoe itself. Jason already had an idea of what the edit was going to look like as well as the shots, and because of this, we had an amazing flow in terms of setting up each of these scenes. A last texture we wanted to do was slow motion of clay dust, and the intention of this was to simulate the ground shaking on a track. We had our production designer smash up some clay pots and place it over a sheet of plexiglass. I used an orbital sander to vibrate the glass, and shooting at 240 frames with the FX3 gave us the exact effect we were looking for. Unfortunately, this didn't make the final edit, but it's something cool that I want to touch on. With how well day 1 went, things were looking great for day 2.
9 on 12, 5.
Throughout planning this whole project, the biggest stress was time. Locking in a private track within a week at nighttime was a huge ask, as well as timing with our talent schedule. In addition to that, weather was not cooperating at all. It was looking like the whole production was going to be rained out, and we had to make the call if we were going to continue. With a positive attitude and wishful thinking, we locked the track in for the next night with bad weather on the horizon. It was intended for this track scene to be at night to drive home the narrative that he is putting in the work when no one is watching. With sun setting around 9 p.m. and only have a location till 12 a.m., we only had about 2-hour window to get all the shots we needed. This was considering the load in and load out time, as well as just general prep. Ironic how little time we had for a commercial based around the concept of time. Prior to the shoot, the director, assistant director, and I were on many calls planning out the most effective way to shoot this. On our way to the location, it was raining and things were not looking good. The crew arrived, and with talent leaving the next day, we only knew that we had one shot to do this. We made the call and set up a base camp under the stands, and luckily the rain held off. It was time to execute on everything that we planned. We sort of shot this piece backwards in terms of how the original edit would play out. General running shots while he was warming up in a one outfit, shots of an outfit change as he was changing into his workout race clothing, fast sprints while he had the second outfit on, which was during his actual workout, inserts needed around the track, so this included running past the track clock at specific times, as well as the final bell lap. The finish of the simulated race as he finished up his workout, and then as he was cooling down, all other inserts that we needed, such as pacing and anything that we needed of the track itself. The track was wetted down on rain, which added to the narrative of the story, as well as looking great on camera. There's this specific feeling on set that you get when shots start coming together. You start to get in a flow with your first AC, your first assistant director, DP, and anybody else on set. And this feeling helps drive everything forward in terms of staying on a schedule, as well as just being happy with the work that you're creating. We knew that this commercial was pushing the boundaries of our crew in addition to our creative portfolio, but in the end, we got all the shots that we needed to get this commercial done and create something that everybody was happy with. I was not involved in the post-production process of this project, but Jason, the director, worked closely with Scott Edwards for the cut and Colton Jackson for the post-audio, which we felt drastically elevated this project in both the edit side as well as the post-audio side. We tried a lot of new things as well as worked with a lot of new people, which helped elevate this piece in general. I find that wearing multiple hats on a lot of projects that we've done before kind of pigeonholes yourself in terms of your thinking and thought process. Bringing on new people, views, and creativity just elevates everything and brings on a new sight that you might not have. I know I didn't touch on the cinematography side of things, but we wanted to show you what a project looks like from top to bottom in terms of execution. We will have a full breakdown on the channel, so make sure that you're subbed for that. If you thought this video was insightful or learned anything from it, please let us know in the comments below. And I also have a video queued up here that you might like. Thanks for watching, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next video.